You can be the smartest person in the room, the most hardworking, the most genuinely kind, and still get talked over, still get ignored, still get treated like your presence doesn't register. Why does that happen? Most people assume the answer is something you say, the perfect comeback, the right tone of voice, the confidence to speak up louder. So they spend years rehearsing what to say when someone disrespects them. They Google how to be more assertive. They practice comebacks in the mirror, and nothing changes. Here's the thing nobody talks about. Respect doesn't live in your words. It lives in your behavior. Specifically, the behavior people observe when you're not trying to impress anyone. There's a concept in behavioral psychology called thin slicing. It's the idea that within the first few seconds of observing someone, the human brain draws massive conclusions about that person's status, confidence, and value, all before a single word is spoken. People are reading you constantly. They're watching how you carry yourself when you get bad news, how you react when someone interrupts you, whether you flinch when someone pushes back, whether you laugh nervously to fill silence, or whether you let the silence breathe. That's what determines respect, not the speech you prepared, not how articulate you sound. And very soon after you understand this, you'll realize something uncomfortable, something that might actually sting a little, because the reason you're being disrespected right now might not be what you think it is. It might be something you're doing every single day, something society told you was a virtue, something you've been praised for your entire life. Stay with me here, because this is where it gets real. You've been taught that kindness is strength, that patience is noble, that being easy to get along with is a quality to be proud of. And it is, until it isn't. Here's the contrarian truth. Most people who feel chronically disrespected aren't being punished for being weak. They're being punished for prioritizing being liked over being respected. And there's a massive difference between the two. Think about it this way. When you constantly smile to smooth over tension that shouldn't be smoothed over, you're sending a signal. When you over-explain your personal choices to people who didn't ask, you're sending a signal. When someone makes a passive-aggressive comment and you laugh it off to keep the peace, you're sending a signal. The signal is this: your comfort is less important than their approval. And people pick up on that, not consciously, subconsciously. Humans are social animals, and we are wired to test boundaries. Every single interaction carries a subtle question underneath it. How much power do I have over this person? When you accept a last-minute invitation out of fear of disappointing someone, you answered that question. When you let a dismissive comment slide because you didn't want to seem sensitive, you answered that question. When you stay in the room while someone treats you poorly because confrontation feels too scary, you answered that question. And over time, the answer you keep giving becomes the story they tell about you. Your kindness has become a lack of boundaries. And what looks like a virtue from the inside looks like an open door from the outside. But here's the good news. You don't need to become someone cold. You don't need to stop being kind. You just need to change 5 specific behaviors, none of which require you to say a single word. 1. Non-reactivity, the Don Draper effect. Here's what separates truly confident people from everyone else. It's not volume, it's not vocabulary, it's the absence of urgency. Think about the most powerful person you've ever been around. Chances are they didn't rush, they didn't scramble. When someone challenged them, they didn't immediately fire back. They paused, they took a breath, they let the pressure just sit there. That pause is a power move. The psychological trigger here is timing. Research shows that most people give themselves only 30% of the time they'd give someone else to respond in a high-stakes conversation. When you're under pressure, the instinct is to speed up, to fill the gap, to defend yourself quickly, to prove you have an answer. Insecure people speed up. Powerful people slow down. Actionable step. Next time you're in a tense conversation, a disagreement, a challenge, someone questioning your decision, do not immediately react. Give yourself a full 5 to 10 seconds. Breathe. Keep your expression neutral. Let the silence exist. That slowing down time signals internal authority. Not arrogance, not aggression, just a quiet, unshakable certainty that you're not threatened. 2. The silent stare, neutralizing disrespect without a word. Someone makes a snide comment, a passive-aggressive remark, a little dig disguised as a joke. Your instinct? One of 2 things. Either laugh it off to keep things comfortable or argue back. Both are a loss. Here's why. Disrespect is a cry for an emotional reaction. The person who makes the rude comment wants to see something happen in your face. They want you to flinch, get defensive, get flustered, or laugh nervously. Any reaction confirms that they have power over your emotional state. When you deny them that reaction, you starve the behavior. Actionable step. Implement what I call the silent stare. When someone says something rude or dismissive, don't respond. Don't smile, don't frown. Just look them directly in the eye, hold a calm, unbothered expression, and let 5 full seconds of silence pass. 5 seconds feels like an eternity in social situations. And in those 5 seconds, something shifts. The awkwardness that you would normally rush to resolve, it lands back on them. They sit in the discomfort of their own bad behavior. You've flipped the power dynamic without opening your mouth. That person has power, and they just felt it. Yours. 3. Asymmetrical spatial ownership, body language that actually works. Everyone tells you to stand up straight, keep good posture, stop slouching. That advice isn't wrong, it's just incomplete. Real physical presence isn't about stiffness or military posture, it's about comfort, and specifically, asymmetry. Here's the psychological trigger. Insecure people try to shrink. They cross their arms, pull their feet together, sit symmetrically rigid like they're trying to take up as little space as possible. They're subconsciously apologizing for their presence. Confident people do the opposite. They expand, not aggressively, comfortably, like they belong exactly where they are. Actionable step. Drape an arm over the back of a chair. Stand with your feet roughly shoulder-width apart. When you gesture, move slowly. No sudden, nervous movements. Keep your chin level. Not tilted up out of arrogance, but level, because letting your head drop signals submission. And here's the part that changes everything. When you physically refuse to shrink, you disrupt the narrative of anyone who's trying to diminish you. A bully needs you to respond like prey. When your body says, "I'm entirely comfortable here," their entire framework collapses. You haven't said a word, but the room has already gotten the message. 4. Stop explaining your choices. The ultimate power play. Why did you leave that job? Why did you end that relationship? Why are you leaving the party early? Notice the instinct, the immediate pull to justify, to explain, to provide enough context that the other person fully understands and approves of your decision. That instinct will cost you more respect than almost anything else you do. Over-explaining is a subtle, almost invisible plea for validation. Every time you offer unsolicited explanations for your personal choices, you're submitting your life to a public vote. You're treating your own decisions as if they require the approval of whoever is asking. People who own their lives don't do that. Actionable step. Embrace the power of the non-explanation. The next time someone questions a decision you've made, why you're leaving, why you said no, why you chose what you chose, look at them calmly and say, "Because I wanted to." And let the conversation end there. No defensive tone, no additional context, no PowerPoint presentation about your reasoning. Just a quiet wall of self-assurance that communicates, "I've already decided. This isn't open for debate. That's not rudeness. That's ownership." And people respect ownership, even when they don't immediately like it. 5. The willingness to walk away. Your most powerful silent move. This one is the hardest, and it's also the most important. You cannot negotiate respect. You cannot convince someone to treat you better through argument, through pleading, through explaining how their behavior made you feel. You can only demonstrate your standards through what you're willing to accept and what you're not. Here's the psychological trigger. Scarcity creates value. When you stick around while being mistreated, when you keep showing up to the friendship that drains you, keep accepting the last-minute cancellations, keep laughing off the dismissive comments, your presence has no cost, and things with no cost have no value. Actionable step. Practice removing your presence, not dramatically, not with a speech or an ultimatum, just quietly. If someone is consistently late and shows no sign of changing, stop rearranging your schedule for them. If a friendship is one-sided and you always do the reaching, stop reaching. If someone crosses a line, don't argue, don't yell, just walk away from the bad deal. The willingness to walk away is the clearest signal you can send that you believe in your own worth. It says, "I will be perfectly fine without this." My baseline is not desperation. My baseline is self-respect. And very soon after you start living that way, watch what happens. Watch how quickly people recalibrate. Watch how the dynamic shifts. Not because you said anything, because you stopped accepting everything. Here's the deepest layer of all of this. These 5 behaviors, the pauses, the stares, the posture, the non-explanations, the willingness to walk, they only work when they're backed by something real, something internal. The unshakable belief that no matter what happens, you will be okay. That's the foundation. Without it, these are just tricks. With it, they become expressions of who you actually are. You don't need to win every argument. You don't need the perfect comeback. You don't need to be louder, sharper, or more strategic with your words. You just need to respect yourself enough to stop tolerating the unacceptable and start acting like the main character of your own story. Let the silence do the heavy lifting. Let your presence do the talking. and watch how quickly the world adjusts to your new standard. If this video gave you even one thing to think differently about, subscribe. Because every week we go deeper into the psychology of how to protect yourself and build real inner strength. Hit like if this landed for you, and drop a comment. Tell me which of the 5 felt most relevant to where you are right now. I read every single one. This is just the beginning.